Hi, Tony DeWitt here. I'm a Missouri appellate attorney who likes to make the law make sense here on YouTube. And today I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite subjects, which is toxic people. So stay tuned. Did you know that the daffodil is poisonous? That's right. You eat that thing, you're going to be paying for it. If it doesn't kill you, it'll probably make you wish you were dead. Same thing with the oleander plant. It's a deadly toxin. Now, both are beautiful flowers, pretty to look at, nice to have in your yard and that kind of thing, but they're toxic. They're not quite as toxic as the castor bean, which of course contains ricin, which will definitely kill you. There's no antidote for ricin, by the way. I share these things because toxins are all over the place. They are in lots of different things. They're certainly in a number of bug killers, as you might imagine, but they exist in nature. And one of the most insidious places where they exist in nature are in the people who may be sitting right next to you at work. Toxic people are the kind of people who simply do not want you to get ahead. It's almost like if you get ahead and they don't, then you're confirming that they're not doing enough. So, although they may not directly try and dissuade you from your hopes and dreams, indirectly they often will. They are an insidious threat to your success. Now, the reason I say that is because I've been the victim of toxic people before, and doubtless you have too. So let's talk a little bit about some of the things that really demonstrate when someone is toxic for you. And you have to look at it this way. If you are going to learn to fly an airplane, you don't go to a submarine base for training. Yet, a lot of us live in the submarine base while yearning to soar with the eagles. We live in that submarine base because we're surrounded by people who say things like, nobody ever gets ahead here. I wouldn't even try. Just do your job. Put in your 8 hours, go home. Don't worry about this place. And I suppose for some people that works. It has never worked for a successful person. It has never worked for a successful person because a successful person gets up in the morning and goes at it strong until the end of the day. And if they don't get everything done, they say, okay, I'm going back tomorrow. I'm finishing the job. But toxic people will do everything in their power to keep you from doing that. So let's look at a couple of traits of toxic people. First of all, you find that they're angry a lot of the time. And a lot of times they don't really have any right to be angry. They come in and they say, we're just not making enough money here. They don't pay us anything here. It's just an insult to come to work here and get a paycheck every 2 weeks that doesn't recognize my true worth. Well, maybe it does recognize their true worth. But they're angry. And their anger is meant to feed your anger. You're meant to buy into that and think, yeah, the world isn't fair. Well, guess what? Expecting the world to be fair is like expecting the bull not to charge because you're a vegetarian. In other words, the two have nothing to do with one another. The fact of the matter is, fairness is something that you create. Fairness to you may be something completely different to somebody else. You may be more than willing to work hard for 8 hours for what you're paid. That somebody else isn't and doesn't want you to be happy doing that is their problem, not your problem. Another interesting tactic used by these toxic people is hooked praise. They'll say things like, well, yeah, you did okay, but what do you expect? I mean, everything they say, even if it's positive, has some kind of a negative hook in it. Well, you got a promotion, but, the fact of the matter is they're going to be working you to death now. And that may be true, but maybe that's exactly what you want because you have a desire to get ahead and they don't. So you find that a lot of these people are always willing to sort of slap you on the back if they think there's something in it for them. They say things like, hey, don't forget me when you get to the top. But the fact is, you probably should forget them when you get to the top because they're interested in staying on the bottom. If they weren't, they'd be asking you how you got that promotion, what they could do to get one, and what books you've been reading that have gotten you there. Here's another thing about people who are toxic for you. They have such low expectations. They expect to get up in the morning, go to work, do their job for 8 hours, and go home and get a paycheck every 2 weeks, and that's it. They don't have any expectation of going further or going up in the organization or going out on their own and starting their own business, taking what they've learned at one enterprise and putting it to work in their own enterprise. That's because they have low expectations and they aspire for you to have low expectations. I was once in a relationship with a person who, although they said the right things, did all the wrong things. That individual, when I brought home $100 in a week, would find a way to spend $150. And everything that I did put me further behind. I did not achieve peace and some measure of success until that toxic person was completely out of my life. And sometimes it is necessary to boot people who are toxic to you completely out of your life. Another thing toxic people do is they try to convince you that you're not good enough. I can't tell you how many times I have sought another job and had someone say, well, you're going for that job. You don't have the experience to do that job. And I would submit my resume and I would put forth a letter and I would almost always get an interview. And even when I didn't get a job, I certainly got an education. And it benefited me to go try to do things that other people thought I couldn't, simply because I would often get my foot in the door, and oftentimes that led to opportunities down the road. And then here's another thing that toxic people do. When you do succeed, it's their success, not yours. Well, you would have never gotten that job if I hadn't told you they were looking for somebody. Or they find a way to take credit for you getting, you wouldn't have got that job if all of us here weren't pulling for you. And, there might be some truth to that, but it isn't their success. It's your success, and you should cherish it. In other words, you don't need the approval of toxic people. The only person who you have to gain the approval of is yourself. Now, that doesn't mean you have to be a narcissist and only think about yourself, nor does it mean you have to abuse and neglect other people. What it means is that when you hear information from other people, you're not good enough. Well, I wouldn't try for that job. I don't think you've got the skills to do it. When you hear that kind of information, you get to decide whether or not it's good advice. And if you don't take it, you are no less well off than if you had taken it, because you know what? If you are good enough, if you do have the background, if you can do that job, then you have gained something and they have lost nothing. And if you're not good enough and you don't get the job, well, again, you got an education, or you found out what you needed to do to go to that next level. All of those things are good things to know. Generally speaking, you have to be very careful about the toxic people in your life. Some of them you are never going to be able to do anything about. Some people you can't get out of your life because you're related to them. But the people that you can get out of your life, the people that you can't ignore, the people that are trying to bring you down and work to your discredit, absolutely you should ignore them and work them out of your life. Instead, surround yourself with positive people. Surround yourself with people who see the good in everything. Be a good finder. You know, when I go to my local Publix grocery store, almost every day I am greeted with, "Hey, how are you? Good to see you again. And thank you for shopping here." And on my way out, I go right by the service desk and I tell the manager, "You got a good crew on today." And I do that because so few people will say something positive, but they are more than willing to say something negative. Which is why when you get negative feedback, you have to evaluate it very carefully. Some negative feedback is very helpful. Some negative feedback is just an attempt to hold you down. You have to keep your eyes on the prize, and you have to get rid of people in your life who don't have your best interest at heart. The only person that really has your best interest at heart is you. And you have to remember that. And again, that's not an excuse to abuse or neglect people that you love, or to write people out of your life simply because they don't necessarily agree with your aspirations. But it is a reason to treat people who are trying to hold you back with a certain level of disdain. And that doesn't mean you have to be ugly to them. It just means that you don't listen to their advice and you don't listen to their concerns. You keep your own counsel. So that's my advice on toxic people and the effect that they can and often do have on you. I recommend that you write those people completely out of your life. So I hope that you found this interesting or helpful. And if you have, I would appreciate it if you would smash that like button for me. And if you haven't already, go over here and touch that subscribe icon and touch the notification bell so that you can get notified every time we release a video here on this channel. Thank you so much for watching. Have a terrific day, and I'll catch you here next time.